I always have a quote. I say, you learn more from your failures than you do your successes. Just because you have lump sum or cash now, don't spend it all.
Yes.
You don't know to your tomorrow. I don't think anybody that takes risks, and risks are the only way you grow.
Yes.
Calculated risk is where the difference is between uncalculated, bad pitfalls, and calculated risk. A lot of people give up too early. They give up before their breakthrough. And it sounds so cliche and so easy, but it's actually very true.
Yeah.
Press, keep forward, if it means that much to you.
A wise quote once said that all our dreams come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Hi there, welcome once again to the Just Start podcast, where we bring you stories, conversations, and insights around business and enterprise from the city of Jos. I'm your host, my name is Timothy Kunat, and it's exciting to be with you once again. Today, we are hosting someone who I call a world champion. Right. But before I get into his details, I want you to do 4 things for me. Like this video, right? If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you aren't following, please follow. Right? Leave a comment because we need to be able to know how these episodes are serving you, if they're answering the deep questions in your heart and much more. And then, of course, share it. Share it with your friends, families, enemies, everybody, because we need this to go as far as possible. All right. So yeah, let me get back to introductions. I'm right here with a Super Bowl champion. Yeah. And the exciting thing, he's actually from Nigeria. He's actually Nigerian and he's from Plateau State. I'm with the Troy Pelshak, and he is not just a son of the soil who lives in the diaspora and has a lot of achievements, but he's got a deep heart for the people here in Nigeria and here, especially in Plateau State. You're welcome, Troy. It's good to have you with me today.
Thank you, Timothy.
Awesome.
Good to be had.
Awesome. Welcome once again to Nigeria. I hope you're enjoying your stay.
Oh, always.
Always.
There's never a dull moment in Nigeria.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, of course, I will start with the Super Bowl and the NFL. Right, and then we'll get into your own personal story. But for many Nigerians, of course, American football is not really big in Nigeria, right? But it's a big deal globally, right? So tell us a little bit about football, the Super Bowl, and your time there.
Okay. Yeah. Funny enough, football, as we call it here in Nigeria, soccer. We call it outside.
Yes.
Was actually my first sport.
Oh.
Yeah, I started with soccer, but that was my first sport before I then migrated to playing other sports. But because of the season, it was the same with football. I had to pick one or the other. So football became a passionate love that I just pursued. Took me everywhere. I had a great experience as far as my father was encouraging to us playing sports and everything else. He was a avid sports watcher on all sports. I think it's maybe baseball is the only thing he probably really didn't get to too much, but we played baseball too. So we did all the sports, all of us. And I was fortunate enough to play well enough in high school to get a full collegiate scholarship.
Wow.
So I attended the North Carolina A&T State University in North Carolina in Greensboro. 4 years at uni. I was able to catch the eyes of the pros. And so it then was the Rams, where they were in St. Louis at the time, St. Louis, Missouri. They're now back to L.A. The club changed. But after first year when I got there, I think when they drafted me, when they picked me up and they signed me and I signed my contract, I had to go look on the map where exactly was the city I was going to, because I've heard of it, but I didn't know exactly where it was at.
Wow.
So that first year was like an unbelievable. I mean, the previous year, I think they won 3 games the previous year. 16 weeks, 18 games, thereabout, including preseason games. Next year, we ended up winning 16, only lost 3.
Wow.
So the 13 and only lost 3, including the championship, and then we made to the championship game. The team we beat in the championship beat us twice earlier in the season.
Wow.
And then we ended up beating And so when I say it's unbelievable, if you understand the size and the magnitude of that sport in the U.S., I think roughly it should be about 20 to 25 billion annually for that sport. It's the largest sport in the U.S. by far.
Yeah.
And then all the other sports follow suit with the advertisement dollars and everything, the stadium, the mega stadiums that they're building, and just the fanfare, merchandise, ticket sales, all these things. So you can really see the impact that sports can have. I mean, they say sport is the number one equalizer when it comes to wars and all these things.
Yeah.
Sports brings everyone's together.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. I know that one at least a number of people might relate with will be the halftime, the Super Bowl, of course, because that's when you get some interesting performances and music and all of that. But before being in the NFL, let's go back to the beginning, right? Born in Jos and raised in the United States.
Yes.
What was that journey like for you? Because of course, and I need to add this too. A number of people will be like, this guy with phone, he must have a soft life. He must have lived a soft life. Everything must have been good.
Where?
If you live, once you just leave Nigeria like this, all your sorrows and your troubles are over. So, what was it like for you?
Man. Let me tell you, it was interesting. The movie The Beast of No Nation. I feel like a child with no nation. From Nigeria, but I'm living in the U.S. with other, multinational kids, but I'm not from the U.S. So I'm a foreigner there.
Wow.
But then the funny thing is, and I'm going to jump forward before I jump back, coming back home with this phone that you said I have, I'm now a foreigner in my own land. Because anything that most people see is like, no, you didn't grow up here. You don't understand. You didn't do this. So I said, so which nation am I? Wow. Where do I reside? But it was, growing up as young, it was tough because you only had your family members or siblings to contest with. Everybody has class systems, whether you like it or not. Everyone is put in a certain ranking, whatever, or category, Now, African Americans in the U.S. were those that were marginalized for a long time throughout. Everyone knows the U.S. history when it comes to that. So now you're black, you're from Africa. You're not seen as a lower class than even the African was somebody to look down to. So it was very tough with the teasing and the, this and that, constant fightings and all this thing that when you growing up just trying to carve out your identity and also gain your respect. But one thing I can always say, my parents were very, very strong advocate about the passion for home. They never took their eyes off. And the whole plan was not even to stay in the U.S. It was during that Shagari regime that my father got a scholarship and went to school. Me and my mother came and joined him later. And then my younger two siblings came, and then the last born was born there. But it was just us, and she always reminded us and always kept us in touch with home, pictures that was being sent, telling us about home, recanting stories after stories. So by the time we came back, it was almost like, I remember this. Mom used to talk about this. We used to see the pictures of this. Now to have it, to touch it was amazing. But it was tough growing up in a foreign country.
Wow. I remember watching a video where you talked about having shoes that were sizes smaller than yours, than your feet, and how you would literally have to, you would go out, it would split open, and you have to come back and sew it every day. So it meant like being there at that time, there was not a lot of family funds available.
No, this visiting of your relatives to get something for TP or calling them up was very foreign when I came back. But when we were there, there was no family reunions, no grandmothers, no grandfathers, no cousins that you go and play with, aunties and uncles. The aunties and uncles were just other Africans that were there or, similar. So it was really tough growing up without that. When every kids and holidays, I was with my grandmother. I didn't grow up with my grandmother. I didn't grow up with my grandfather. So it was kind of difficult from a family perspective. And then so you remember my father was in school pursuing his PhD. He finished. Now he has a wife and 4 kids, small kids. in school. They're both having to try and work and school at the same time because when Chagrin regime toppled, it was everyone return back or find your way to survive wherever you're at. So my parents decided, for the sake of us, like, well, let's just let them finish school and stay. As we got older, moved to North Carolina, school clothes, shoes, and all this back to school shopping. That wasn't that wasn't possible with the mouths to feed that my father had, and also just to keep surviving and paying for school. Because now you're paying for school by yourself, as well as working, as well as supporting a family. But you're not able to work every job, any job,
especially because you're not a citizen.
Because you're not a citizen, or you don't have the right visa that allows you to work, which is very difficult in that situation. So my going back with the rest of us, it was going back to school. I remember I needed some shoes bad. I didn't have any shoes. I was growing. I just went in my father's closet, stole his shoes, some old shoes that I saw in his closet. But by then, my size was 2-3 sizes bigger than my father's feet.
Wow.
So I'm now squeezing inside these shoes. And I remember being teased. They used to call me church boy because the shoes, I looked like I was going to church every day in school. So they used to say church boy. But with the feet being so big, they split at the toes, right there at the seams. So that, I think, is when I learned how to sew. And so every day I would come back, I picked the right thread that matched the color. And I would sew it, I would sew it, I would sew it, I would sew it back. Next day, split. Come home, sew it again. Next day, split. Every day. And the thing is, I never removed the thread. I just kept
going over.
And I remember telling one of my teammates, right, about the story. I forgot about the story a long time. I forgot it. He said, there's no way you went through that. It's not possible. Nobody lived like that. I said, you think I'm lying? I said, no problem. So one bye week, I went home, looked at my mother's in the house, found the shoes.
You found the shoes?
Yeah, I kept them because as a reminder.
Yeah.
I kept them as a reminder from where I came from. Found the shoes, brought it back to him, showed him. His mouth dropped. All the threads were still there. Old threads. This is probably 10, 15 years later that after this happened. But I kept those shoes forever because that's the way. It's always a constant reminder.
Wow. So in the midst of all of that, how did you arrive at football?
How did I arrive at football? Funny enough, my father, when he first came, students get tickets and the best seats in the stadium at the uni.
Okay.
So he said, he got season tickets football, and it was under the student pass. He went and got the whole season. He came first game. He said, okay, I don't understand this thing that they're wearing. Maybe it's to warm up. Maybe it's the way they warm up before the match. Then he saw them wearing equipment. They were handling. I said, that's handball now. What's going on? He didn't make it through the whole game. He just left, threw away his tickets because it's like, I don't understand this sport that they're doing. Slowly over time, he began learning the rules, learning the game. Man, when that man sits down to watch those games, nobody's in the room. Talk to him all you like. There's no response, no anything else.
Wow.
So my desire was like, okay, if that can get his attention, then that's what I want to do.
Wow.
So that's when, then from there, I just said, well, if I'm going to do it, the one thing he always said, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it the best. You're not going to do it halfway. And, there's no quitting. So one thing we knew is you finish the season, you do it the best, and you don't quit. And that was what kept propelling me. I said, if I'm going to be the best, then I'm going to be the best and nothing less.
Amazing. And football brought in a lot of successes?
Yeah, successes and challenges and big failures.
What were some of those big failures?
I always have a quote. I say, you learn more from your failures than you do your successes by far. So some of my biggest failures is probably, my springboards to some of the biggest success. I was never flashy. My father really hated that. Most people don't know, even when he passed, they didn't even know he had a PhD.
Wow.
His workers have been with him 17 years. He's been working with those. They had no idea until the day of his wake that he said, you mean this guy was a doctor? Like, yeah, but that's how my father was. So getting in, I knew that I didn't really need my father said one quote to me, and he says some of the craziest things though, and they'll come from nowhere. I get drafted, I get picked up, I get my bonus, my signing bonus. I'm about to go off to camp and everything else. He just says, a man can only drive one car at a time.
Wow.
I'm like, where's that coming from? What does that have to do with anything? But then it dawned on me, it's like, yeah, don't go there and start buying all these things. You can only drive one car at one time. You can only live in one room at one time. And only one house. Why buy all those things if you can't maintain? And those are some of the biggest lessons that I said that growing into it. That's what kind of propelled me. And then from there, it was just meeting challenges head on. You know, I had some coaches that weren't, wanted to kind of put a thumbnail on me. I'm not somebody that can just put in drive and do this. So I actually said, okay, no problem. I'm going to show you. When I see a challenge, I said, no problem. I'll show you. I can show you better than I can tell you. And I just show you. So success after success after success that came. And I don't take, if the status quo says you're supposed to come in as a first year student and you don't really play yet because you haven't matured. I said, but why? I said, I don't understand. Everyone is competing, right? Why should I wait to compete if I'm already competing at that level? So my 4 years at university, I think it's only 1 or 2 games that I didn't start.
Wow.
There's only 1 or 2 freshmen that were first year student that was playing at 18. So at 18, I was already playing with guys at 21, 22 in the uni. They were playing behind me. That's how I just continue. Now they say Nigeria go carry last.
Nigeria they carry last. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. So and then of course in reading I find that you're now like the first Nigerian, first African in your school's Hall of Fame.
Yes. I was inducted, I think 2016 into the Sports Hall of Fame, the University Sports Hall of Fame. And I was the first African, which makes me the first Nigerian to be inducted into the school's Hall of Fame. I think the next Olympics after that, we came out with 2 gold medals from my university. So it's not a small, by the way, school. No,
that's a big deal.
It's the largest historically Black university in the U.S. by far. A NASA program, engineering program, agriculture, manufacturing, mechanical engineering, business. Nursing, the gambit goes far and wide. I mean, the school is a very prestigious school. It's one of the hardest ones to get into as any student that is. But I was fortunate to go there, finished early, which almost with a double major. But I wanted to go play pro ball, so at least I got one. I said, Mom, I walked across stage. I said, this is yours. Can I go do what I want to do now? And she said, you've completed your task. Go ahead. So that's how I continue to win and play. But that was maybe some of my impactful time in my life is, life bonds are made at university or post-secondary school.
Yeah.
Those are the bonds that you kind of carry throughout life. And I met some impactful people in my life during that time and people I'm still close with today, my teammates and stuff like that.
Fantastic. You mentioned your dad and the quote he dropped, like when he said a man can only ride one car at a time. How did you navigate financial decisions as a sports person, right? Because of course you know that a lot of people in sports sometimes, like you mentioned, live large, live wild. There's a lot of money. And then many years after they retire, there's not so much. It's almost like a stark contrast.
Yeah.
How did you manage to, handle that and then lead? And then how has that led up to where you are right now?
It's a good one. I would say first foundation. I was coming from a grounded family and grounded roots. I mean, my father and my parents were lived modest in a sense. But the thing was to touch and impact more people as possible. So I noticed our modesty and our upbringing was also because it kept spreading and sharing wide instead of high just for us, which actually led to a lot of lifelong love and reverence for the family as a whole, just the family name across the world. I mean, you got to remember, my father started doing citizenship for foreign students. And I remember I used to carry his briefcase with him to go to the capital city to do paperwork for all of them.
Wow.
I remember Jamaican, Chinese, Niger, Cameroon, Middle East, and Korea. South Korea. These are people that I remember personally families that got citizenship, Bangladesh, that got citizenship because my father read. He's self-taught on everything, even after his PhD. So everything he learned himself. So that is what kind of pushed us and propelled us and kind of put us in that right path to say. But managing finances was, to me, my mother, we went through our times where one thing is debt. Debt can be good, debt can be bad. We learned early on about debt. My father was self-taught. He started trading stocks himself, buying and selling stocks. So by the time I went to uni, I knew that there was a strategy I found and I created, started to talk to my father about it. He said, yeah, it makes sense, go ahead. So I took my monies that they gave me, like Alawi, and then I invested it in my first, second years throughout. When I finished, I pulled it out because I didn't need it, and I went pro. So it was that kind of mindful thinking is, just because you have lump sum or cash now, don't spend it all.
Yes.
You don't know to your tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's shit. So I went through that. I don't think anybody that takes risks, and risks are the only way you grow.
Yes.
Calculated risk is where the difference is between uncalculated, bad pitfalls, and calculated risk. And you have to go through, there's no person that has traversed this life hasn't had some kind of challenges, but what do you do with it and how do you keep it from repeating? So financial challenges are across the board. It just so happens my sport in the industry happens to be one that everything is seen as big and flashy just because of the amount of millions that floats around. And therefore, everyone wants to keep up their appearance and they get sucked into it. And funny enough, a lot of family members and extended people are the one that put the pressure additionally because your mother wants a house. Your sister needs a car.
That's all with the term that they call black tax.
Black tax. Exactly. So imagine the black tax here that we have where one person's salary goes around 16 times. It's no different than when it comes to that, and even more so when you're a professional athlete. Then you get all the other ancillary things, is the ladies, the attention, the media, and all this different stuff that pulls you in different directions. So a lot of guys get misguided because no financial literacy or strong financial education. I was fortunate to have it. I had my pitfalls. I lost it all and regained it back. And I think the biggest impact as far as when that happened was probably right after my father passed, where the business just had to close down, changes in government, everything. We lost everything. And at that point, I sat down at my lowest. I think I said, you know what? This can't happen again. It shouldn't happen again. I'm too intelligent. I've been taught well, and I know financially. So yes, it happens to a lot of people, but still, I always say, why does that make me different? Just because it happened to everyone doesn't mean it needs to happen to me. So I came up with a simple model process. I call my 4-3-2-1.
4-3-2-1.
4-3-2-1 process. 40%, 30%, 20%, 10%.
Okay.
It's called his first. 40% home of your salary or your take home, whatever it is. 30% investment, HI. 20% savings, and then 10% tithe. And when I didn't have money, I tithe my time. 365 days a year, 10% of that. 1 month, 31 days, or 36 days, 37 days if you round up. 37 days, I give my time when I didn't have money. Whatever the cause and nonprofit, you meet a lot more people. You meet a lot. Your destiny helpers, for lack of better words, come from engagements and socialization. But if you're not giving, how do you expect to be given to?
So true. So true. Wow, 4-3-2-1. That is
very simple.
That's insightful. I mean, this was just like a basic financial intelligence class in in a few sentences right there. 4-3-2-1. I think it's really simple to remember. 40% home, 30% investment, 20% savings, 10% tithe.
His first.
Yeah, and I think that especially us young people, I think that it's one thing we must pay attention to if you're actually going to live a life that pays attention to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to have a little money, especially when, with a lot of us, people work various jobs. So they're either doing like careers that that bring cash flow in, like gigs.
Yep.
So there's maybe like you're in the entertainment or something that you're not getting like a regular every month salary, but you get like lump sums after certain jobs. And sometimes you have a lot of money that comes in now, and then like 2 months later you're hearing crickets in your bank account. So I think that that's a very important thing, because of course if you have savings, if you have investments, they can carry you through, and then you can even leave a legacy for your children.
Yeah. But it's part of the calculated risk that I said is because a lot of things that I got into trouble over financially was taking too big of a risk, too big of a position. One thing they said is when you start investing or you start doing anything, that's when you really know yourself. What's your true self, not the one you tell everyone else, but your true self.
Greed and fear index.
You'll know that when you start investing. So I've always been a big risk taker, and I always go big, but I realize it's not sustainable long term. The losses add up and they become bigger over time. The problem I also see here in Nigeria is we're quick to go borrow from friends and family for a uncalculated risk. Now that severs the relationship and also severs the future. And it happens far too many times. Now that uncle you went and borrowed some money for to go jump into this venture, now you can't go and see him. You can't go and greet him. That auntie that you borrowed money, you haven't given update is why. But they felt compelled. Now, what happens when illness befalls the family, but you can't go back to the family to ask because you've already taken for someone? That's the problem. So 4321 keeps you from leveraging everything in something, thinking I'm going to put a big money in and I'm going to make a big. Doesn't happen like that. Only 30%.
30%.
Only 30%.
Someone said sometimes when people say go big or go home, sometimes when you go big, you just go home.
You just go home. Go broke and go home.
You just go broke and go home. Wow. But as a Nigerian in the diaspora, and someone from Plateau State, you have very strong ties back home, and you also mentioned that because it was the intentionality that your parents put into it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things. You come home very often.
Yeah,
you come home very often. What keeps bringing you back home?
Oh man, what is there not to love? The wahala and the smiles. The point and kill brings me back.
Point and kill.
The point and kill brings me back. But no, I think the first time I came back as an adult, it was after our championship season. So my parents were like, all right, now you have enough money, you finished school, we're going home. That was already it was set by the time the season started. My parents said, you finish university, all right, now you're working. As soon as you finish or you get your break, we're going home. It was already set. The problem is we kept winning into the postseason. So now we kept changing. Then my parents said, just stop. We're not picking any flight. Finish this season. Yeah. So after we won the championship, then we came back. First flight, we were gone. I think the first couple of weeks I said, Mom, I can't stay. It's not possible. No way. But we stayed in Tunawada in Mado, up on the hill. Yeah.
Wow.
Still the family house there.
Okay.
In Tunawada. I loved it. The rocks and everything else and the hills and all that. So man, the breeze. But the first week was hard because the first couple weeks I said, Mom, I'm losing mass. Because I was, for my position, I was smaller than I was in between two positions, but I was smaller than one of the other positions, about the right size for the other one. They still wanted me to put mass on. I was eating 7,000 calories daily and would still lose weight. Still lose weight. I mean, they had specialized protein shakes, but they were specialized for each individual person, not just a regular protein. So I had my own that had my name. I kept it. I'd store some at home and store some in the club and store some, but I couldn't. The food was just too rich and it was just too. It was natural, so it was just flowing. I couldn't put mass. I couldn't keep mass on. I said, Mom, it's not possible. I need to go back. I need to go back and I need to train. By the time the second week hit, I think we stayed like maybe a month, maybe 5-6 weeks, whatever. My parents said, all right, it's time to go. I said, well, no, you guys go ahead and go. I'm going to change my flight and stay 2 more weeks. Wow. I'll meet you later. My mother said, no way. Let's go. That was the first. That's when it all started. So from there, it was like rapid. I mean, there was a few times I was in between contracts, playing contracts. I said, why am I sitting in the U.S.? I can't even stay in Nigeria until I signed another contract. 3 months, 4 months, up until recently. I think my shortest stay was no less than 3 months. The shortest. A couple of years. I spent 2.5 years last year. 20 through COVID.
COVID. You were in Nigeria during COVID.
2.5 years straight. I had to get a different ticket to go back. The last one expired.
Yeah. Amazing.
Spent 2.5 years here.
Wow.
I've seen the country.
You were talking the other time about some of your experiences.
Oh man. You know, ignorance is bliss. So for a certain degree, I remember one time I was chasing a container. I had a car inside of a container, so I was chasing this container. Oh man, I shipped it to One instead of Lagos that time. So I was like, the Demridge. Then regime changed, office changed. Then it was Demridge beyond Demridge. And I was like, okay, so I said, let's just go down to Port Harcourt. One of my guys said, let's go. No flights up into Port Harcourt. And then we reached, I forget where, and then had to go by road the rest of the way. Get there, chasing the hotel we stayed in. So it was curfew because of Niger Delta conflict crisis. 7 p.m., everybody need to be wherever you're at. But the hotel we stayed in, they just finished doing an operation. So just bullet holes across everywhere.
My God.
Maybe 3 of us was guests there, but that's where we lodged at. And I said, well, at least we know if they finish operation here, they're not going to
coming back.
So we're actually in a safe place.
Oh my God.
I was Harry Waka. Go. Oh man. Then another time, I went to Ijebu and spent 1 week.
Yeah.
1 or 2 weeks there during Christmas time. Man, those people can party. Ijebu, woo. But I had a great time. But the thing was, I started running out of cash. so now I was like, okay, I'll go get back. And then my uncle was with me. I was like, okay, we have enough money for one of us to go now. Okay, you go back to Jos. I'll wait and figure out what we're gonna do with Lagos. So I waited 3-4 days. I think I had to get my cousin that was in the US that had to say wire me some money. So he wired me, I had just enough. And I was staying with one of my aunties and uncles in Abuja. Finally, I got the flight, the cheapest one I could get on the plane. As I landed, I only had enough call credit to say, Auntie, I landed. Your call credit has exhausted. I said, my last of my money. So I just sat there. I said, well, I hope somebody got the call. I hope she picked. Luckily she just said, this boy must be there. She just sent the driver, go pick him. So no, I've enjoyed, but those are some of the best moments. And you know, everybody thinks it's rosy. There's no rosy anywhere. There's no green path. There's no easy street. I had a coach that used to say, just when you think you found easy street, you find out there's another street down.
Yeah.
It's never easy street. And if you want something, you're hustling. Right here, where you're at, can provide you some of the best jewels and gems.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, most people, they want this japa. But the thing is, the people that japa, they don't tell you the whole story where they reach.
Yeah.
Because how do you tell them, yeah, I did everything, sold everything, you know, robbed Peter to pay Paul to make sure I made this japa, but I go tell you now, it's no sweet. There's no way. It's an embarrassment. But the thing is, right, ask yourself, why do those that come back keep coming back? Except for the December timeframe, but why did they come back? There must be something here. And not only them, why are the other internationals, foreigners coming?
Yeah.
There must be something here. They're leaving their country to come here. You're trying to leave here to go to their country. Where does that make sense? But I remember, man, those days when I was hustling, I climbed Okada, trying to hustle laptops. I was looking for land. I went in the bush. The guy came. I was wearing some dress shoes. Church boy again. I was coming from a meeting, wearing dress shoes, dress pants. He said, sir, maybe you want where we go back. I said, no. There's no time to go back to the house of change. Let's just go. Let's find this land. I'm looking at. We walk. My shoe split. He said, so sorry. What do we go back? I said, no. Let's keep going. Kept going. The second shoe split. I just had to remove the soul from both of them. That was how I was just waka waka. He said, please, let's go back. I said, no, not till we get to where this place is, where's the land I'm trying to look at. So, those shoes I still keep too. Those are in Nigeria. The other ones are in the US. So I keep those too. But there's no, what is it? What's the phrase? There's no testimony without a test.
Yes.
So you have to be tested first. A lot of people give up too early. They give up before their breakthrough. And it sounds so cliche and so easy, but it's actually very true.
Yeah.
Press, keep forward. If it means that much to you, if you're committed to it. Anytime people come to me about business and advice, the younger ones, right? I always say, okay, what's your business plan? Oh, I don't have one. No problem. I'll give you time. Go back and give a business plan. That's the number one rule out. Most of them don't. That's too much work. I just came to ask Uncle for money now.
For money, yeah.
Why this wahala? No why. So you want to useless my money to keep from the next person. Why? You don't have a real plan. There's no passion behind it. The first instance of strife and struggle, you'll abandon it, move to the next new shiny opportunity.
Object, yeah.
It never works that way. When you're committed, when you stay focused, it gets hard, then it gets easy, then it becomes like as if you're just like riding a bike. You just said it's just natural.
Yeah.
It just flows.
Yeah. What are some of as someone who, of course, coming from outside, and you have various perspectives, it's easier to identify some opportunities in a place where when you come from outside. What are some of the opportunities you find here? Let's start with Plateau State. And then, of course, we can expand it to the entire Nigeria, that you wish people here paid attention to.
One thing with Plateau State, Plateau is a primarily civil servant society or economy, for lack of better words. There's industries and businesses, but they're also catered to tourism and hospitality and those things, right? I always say is finding the service that supplies the service. So the niche that I would even say for those that are here is, what do you do so well? And then market it on a global scale. Go global to now become local. People will find you when you do good. Ask for reviews. Ask for recommendations. If I say, oh, this industry, I can say definitely agriculture. Everybody knows Plateau State for agriculture. But outside of agriculture, there's the mining industry. Outside of the mining industry, right, you have all these hotels, areas like this, businesses that need services. They need to be done. Then professionalism is the key thing that most people don't execute on a professional level. They think is almost like familiarity. Oh, you patronize me. I mean, you'll see businesses where they don't demand the highest respect. Why? Because maybe the principle is not there. My mother always said, don't be a jack of all trade, a master of none. We Nigerians, we don't just keep one job. Whether it's poultry, chickens in the house, poultry, piggery, there's always something you're doing on the side. So how much of that something becomes nothing of the main thing you're doing? So I always keep a general motto of three. Rule of three, right? My rule of three is, you have two hands and you have your eyes. I can hold two things in my hands and I can keep my eyes and my head focused on the third thing. But in order for me to focus on a fourth, one of them has to drop.
Yes.
Whether I drop my eyes away from what I'm looking at or drop something so I can pick up the next thing. Three, if you go beyond three, you're ineffective and you actually jeopardize all by doing that. So sometimes it's not always good to to thin yourself out.
Yeah.
Focus on the thing and keep them in the same lane. If I'm a doctor, why am I going into piggery? Unless I grew up and it's a passion.
Yeah.
But if it's not that, there's opportunity in everything.
Yeah.
What can you find that can really help and really sustain?
Yeah. Now, one of the reasons why a lot of people, would talk about, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing this, a lot of things, is also because people are trying to make ends meet.
Yes.
Right. And looking for every every avenue to make some extra little cash, right? Because economy is one way, and you know how all of these are. But now, in how do you balance the reality of the economy and the financial state of a lot of people with this rule of three focus that you've just talked about?
Okay, so I put it this way: the economy is what it is today, right? Under this regime, but the previous regime, it was quote unquote harsh. The previous regime was harsh. It's not getting any better. It's going to have its challenges, it's going to have its peaks, it's going to have its lows. The only thing you're losing is time. So if you're putting if you're focusing on those three main core things, maybe your main job, and then maybe one other side hustle or one something else, or even church activity is one of those three. People spend a lot of time doing a lot of things that is fulfilling spiritually, yes, but let it be one of those three and know that I need to focus on the other two, or if not, don't try and overcompensate.
Yeah.
And you can either spend that time doing those three things and change every regime or every different policy. Now you have to change a new opportunity, or you can say, I'm going to focus on these two or three things. And when people get to know you for that, they know, hey, I need somebody for this. Oh, yes.
This person.
Because why? I know him to be, or I know her to be in it. But if you're on so many things, they're like, is this person still doing that again? Or what are they to now?
That's
what are they up to now? And anytime I see somebody doing multiple things like this, I don't look at you as being you're accomplishing anything. I said, no, you're unfocused. You don't know where you'll land. I can't trust you to engage your services because I'm not sure if tomorrow you'll be here or you'll be on to a next thing. So the only thing is you can choose to either do a lot of things and think you're compensating by, I need to make money anyway, anyhow. And I understand the economy is tough. Or you can focus on one thing and say, you know what? It's going to grow slow. But once it gets in and solid, everyone knows me for that.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that you can accomplish.
Yeah. It's that slow and patient growth that is the problem.
Yes.
Because many times people want quick stuff. Right, my needs are not growing slowly. My needs are coming at me hard. You know, they're charging at me like hungry lions. How am I now going to grow slow? Meanwhile, the needs are not growing slow.
Well, socialization. I'll go back to that because we're a community that socializes and we help. If my brother has a project or my sister has a project that is viable, they can actually put a plan together. We can actually then you source the funds or you source the support to help that one project. When it grows, it has challenges. You have checks and balances because you're accountable to somebody. Then that person you're accountable to also sees the growth and everything else. When your time happens and it hits, now you support the other ones and you make it like a small nucleus, whether it's friends, relations, or family. But the first thing is you command the respect to know that I'm dedicated. I put time, effort into this. I'm going to sustain this.
Yeah.
It's going to be impactful. That's the only way. And then because if you're not, the person that's working in the regular job has almost the salary can only stretch but so much.
Yes.
The pay can only stretch but so much. How do you do those other things? Some of the times when I didn't have no way, no access, and no financial support coming from anywhere, right? Volunteer. You have your time. Volunteer. A lot of my opportunities that came out of giving of my time.
Wow.
Sometimes a lot of people is like, oh no, the salary is too much. I've had projects, I've had jobs, I've had tried to hire people. I find it the more difficult to hire here in Plateau State because the mentality to a certain degree has been that of, if it seems too harsh, too long, let me go and find something else doing. And you're like, wow. The best successes I've had are those that came to me and was like, look, I just want to work with you. And then, okay, I don't really need that much support help, but if you're willing to find, and what I'll give back to you is I'll give you my knowledge. Those people now, what they're being paid, I can't pay them. You see, but I realized it was the ones that came with let me just work with you.
Yeah.
Something will happen along the way, and that's the way. Everybody doesn't have, like you said, that destiny helper identified yet.
Yeah.
They're there, they're not identified yet. And most people only equate the destiny helper is who has the buoyancy, who has the funds, who seems wealthy enough. Let me go to them.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. Some of your biggest breakthrough are the ones you think don't have anything.
Wow. 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 What would you say? You mentioned something about the mentality when it comes to work here. And you're not the first person that has told me, that I've had conversation about that with. What would you say is a probable or possible solution to fixing that? Because I mean, I've heard people talk about the work ethic, and of course, when it comes to the fact that a lot of people here are what's the word now? Content.
Yeah.
And contentment is a good thing. However, sometimes it stretches into complacency. Right. And that's what you're talking about with the mindset to work and all of that. What would you say if there are, and not if that, because there definitely are young people and other people who are maybe not so young, but are watching this or listening to this? What would you say is the how to fix this challenge?
Funny thing is, the first thing that came to my mind in giving that is be on time. That's everything starts from there. Be on time. You're supposed to, the work starts by 8 a.m., right? You're coming in at 8:45, 8:30, and you're even strolling casually. Yeah, you still get the work done. But what does that say about your character? Because public service has a little more leniency by way of funding comes from the federal and from the revenue that's being generated by the state. Private sector doesn't have that.
Yes.
So they can't expect the same work output from the same people. They expect more because why? They're revenue generating to sustain. They have to meet up. We're too big on giving excuses, or let me say, not excuses, apologies for things that can really be avoidable or addressed. We had a thing when we played in the NFL, man, if you're on time, you're late. That was the phrase. If you're on time, you're late. It's that simple. If you're on time, you're late. Everything that you're doing that's delaying you from getting on time, you can do it get there early. All those that's delaying, you can do it then. Prep before you do. Be intentional. That type of person, you're always going to be looked for. Man, do I want this thing to succeed? I better call Tim. If I'm not really care what happened, I'll just call James. But if I want this to go well, I want it to succeed, I call Tim. Now, Tim is booked. I don't know if I can slot you in. And then also, don't take on more just for sake of losing the job. I don't want to lose it, so I take him on, but I know I can't finish the work. I know I can't deliver on the time that I promised, but I'll just beg afterwards so they'll understand. No, I don't understand that kind of thing, because I asked you, can you do this? Yes.
I said yes.
Can you deliver at this time? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Okay, no problem. I don't drag with prices. Why? You're going to deliver at this time. I'm not dragging with your price then. If it's fair, it's fair. Boom, let's go. But the minute you don't deliver, now I'll get my deductions. That's my dragging. Because most of the time, if they don't deliver, they did exactly what you would have done in the beginning.
Yeah.
But if they do deliver, that's the tip you would have given them anyways.
Yeah.
But so I say for the young people is work towards that work ethic. If you had a better work ethic, just start on time. The rest will flow. And do it with excellence. It sounds easy and cliches, but the simplest thing is get there early. If the time is so get there early. And then if you're not, communicate. Communication is huge. They don't communicate to the principal, the owner, whoever, hey, this and this happened, I'm running late, so that they can adjust or prepare themselves that, okay, this person is coming, let's delay, let's do whatever is necessary. But there's more young people, not enough jobs. There's not enough jobs because federal work or state work can't employ everyone. So then private sector is meant to pick up that slack. But private sector is driven off purely the service that they're rendering or the goods that they're producing. If your workers aren't giving you the best, how can you survive? Why do you think we've lost so many industries in Plateau? They can't survive. And it's not, maybe, there's an abundance of workers, there's abundance of men, but the culture is not conducive enough for them to be able to sustain and survive. And those things there's a hotbed of talent here. Outside of even the entertainment industry, there's a immense amount of, but they're hidden in pockets because it's hard to get them to come out. But now to get an industry or a company to be able to say, yes, we can do that much capital infusion into the state and it can be sustained. That's where they said, I don't know. I don't think so. And I think that's where they're making the decision. You see, we lose a lot to Kaduna. We lose a lot to Nasarawa State.
Yeah.
Those are our borders. Why? Because it's easier to operate Jos from KD.
Wow.
And this is not just me. This is decades of talking. One of the biggest manufacturers here, he says, man, our people, I don't know. He said, all my business is in the East. I'm like, why? He said, I can't get what I need from here. And it's sad when we see how many of them industries that leave. But I think if we can't control that now, but we can control our individual selves, our work ethics, our work output. We can control that. Start with the thing you can control.
Yeah. I think that's a very solemn place to just stop and think. Right, stop and think. You've said some really hard truth. Needed to be said. Needed to be said. There's so much that needs to be done. If we really would be expecting a lot of investors, a lot of people to come in here with their funds, and all of that. You talked about the fact that Jos is a hotbed of talents, but this culture and this character needs to be fixed.
Yeah,
needs to be fixed. What would you, as someone who also lives in the diaspora, what are opportunities that you would say exists for fellow Plateau people in the diaspora, fellow Nigerians in the diaspora, things that they can invest in here in the state and generally in other parts of Nigeria?
One thing I always know is stay in your lane. I'll start with that. Most of us, even me, I'm guilty of that. I was guilty of that. When I first came back home, I was like, man, everything was an opportunity. Oh, my eyes got big. I was like, oh my God, I can't take it all in. But then I had to remember, which I found out the hard way, is there's certain things that we cannot do as diaspora because we're not on the ground. No matter how much you think you're coming from the Western world or East or whatever, and you have either financial buoyancy or you're coming from a more exposed environment, whatever, you can never outperform the man who's been in his backyard.
Yeah.
You can't outperform the woman in their backyard. It's not possible. So you need to be mindful of that as diasporans coming back home or looking to do things back home. And I would say, too, the second thing is, if you're going to invest in back home, have the right mechanism around to do monitoring.
Okay.
Proper management and monitoring of your investment. I see too many families that are disrupted because of, I sent my brother this to go and do X, Y, and Z. I sent my sister this money to start up this business. And then you come back,
nothing.
To get to the bottom of the story, what actually happened, who knows? But then also now family crisis comes along.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't go back to that same because they put everything into you to do this to help solve and sort out those things. So I always say with diasporans is be mindful. What is your intent to just help them, your relations or your people around you, whatever you want to do, or is your intent to actually grow and establish a viable venture?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a NGO, for profit, or whatever. If the latter is your intent, then you need to actually have proper monitoring outside of the principles involved, because it's the only way you'll get an unbiased. This is what's actually happening. This is what is actually going on. Public companies do audited financials.
Mm-hmm.
Regular companies do audited financials. You're just doing a continuous audit on that project, but from an external standpoint. I think that's what I had to learn the hard way, which actually led me to start my company here. Was for project management, because there was too many losses here by way of, well, I did this with a family friend, or I did this with a good friend and colleague, and then I came back, there was nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Is somebody else taking over this and taking over that? When did this happen? We don't know. We don't happen. And that's where the biggest thing is. Your hard-earned monies, wherever you're making it, needs to be judiciously put to use and executed. Don't give it to just, if you're giving it, give it. Here, take this, go do it, and you don't care what happens or what comes back after that. But if you're actually trying to start something, be intentional. Be very intentional about everything you do.
Awesome. So you said to stay in your lane, stay in the industry, in the sector that you're familiar with.
Yes.
Right. And then also have a proper system of monitoring, because like there are already too many. Recently, I even saw a video, somebody lamenting he came in from South Africa. He's been sending in money for projects, and he's been in South Africa for over 20 years, and he's back home and there's nothing to show for it. So yeah, have a proper system of monitoring. What are some of the things that you're doing now, especially here? Right.
Plateau.
Here in Plateau, here in Nigeria. I know that recently there's the creators barbecue that what's the idea behind that hangout with creators here in Plateau State? That's on one side, and then let's talk a little bit about some of the projects and businesses that you're going here.
Okay. We'll start with the content creators barbecue.
Yeah.
So the concept behind it is, over the years, when I was coming back and forth over the years, I was based in primarily, just when I first started, it was based here. But then I realized for what I wanted to do, what I needed to do, and what I was doing was more Abuja, Lagos, and more bigger metropolitans. So I started doing a lot of those. I was bringing in a lot of equipment for people, set up studios, something like this. Yeah, sound studios. I did a lot of IT tech engineering and stuff like that for a lot of different small companies, and working out logistics, especially coming from outside the country into the country, custom duties and all those things, working out those paperwork from external. So I realized that a lot of businesses were fragmented in a sense that this person is doing something good and these people can benefit. Why are these people not
collaborating?
Why are they not even aware of each other? So I said, over time, I said, well, I can keep doing what I'm doing now, or I can now bring it together. So I started doing a business barbecue. And one thing I do with my business barbecues is there's no high table. I don't do that. So I have had, government officials for certain parastatals, commissioners, they come through. If they're PAs or whatever come through, I said, no, I don't have a high table. So if your principal isn't comfortable just being here, they're invited to this private barbecue, but if they're not, then I don't know, this is not the place for them, maybe. Now, to say that is, the ones, most of them have been very receptive, meaning, no, they understand it's cool. They sit down, and I've literally sat and watched when we're talking in the business barbecues at different tables, whatever, somebody begins saying, Madame, I've been looking for you for 2 years. Wow. I didn't know how I would ever get across to you. We have a business here. This is what she said. You're the people that we needed. You're supposed to come register. I'm going to send my people to your shop. And he said, I never knew who I needed. I'm sitting right next to.
Right next to them.
And we're talking from government officials down to your local fish sit out. Anybody that comes is to collaborate, to say what can we do, and also because as we collaborate here in Plateau and do this, now you take it outside and take it bigger. But then now you give opportunity for those in diaspora to now feed back in because something is happening or somebody's aware of this. So now it morphed, and over years it became a mainstay, business barbecue to business barbecue. So now I looked at it, I said, okay, what you guys have been doing has been impressive, that we needed to tell the Plateau story or bring it out. So I said, okay. And what I've seen in the last 1 year of what's happening with Plateau, with Joss and the buzz in the Christmas season, outside of the Christmas season, it's impressive. Everybody, and I brought so many people that said, man, I have to come back to Joss. I have to come back every time. That's why I said, okay, who best to tell the story but content creators? That's when we now morphed and said, okay, we're going to do a content creators barbecue. So basically it's a business barbecue networking session, but primarily for the content creators to now take and meet, just relax, mingle, exchange, and then now take it out.
Yeah, fantastic. You know, before I saw the details of that event, I had started reaching out to a few people to say, I think we need to sit down and have conversations. I think we need to sit down and have conversations. This thing, we don't have an industry around what we're doing right here that can attract attention, attract funding, attract necessary partnerships and all of those kinds of things. So when I saw it, I was really excited, really excited. So, but all the other projects, I know you that talked about the foundation and some business on the project management side.
Yep. So we have a foundation that was named after my father when he passed, Cascada Man of One World Foundation. But we started it. My mother actually started the whole concept in the 80s. When she would come back home to Nigeria, she would package all the over-the-counter medicine, Panadols, blood catheters, glucose monitors, all the things she'll pack it in her check-in. And then her carry-on is the only thing she'll wear for the whole time. And then she'll come back and then distribute those things, give it out. Diapers, wet cloths. So we said, okay, what best way is we need to make it bigger? You know, same my motto, go big or go home.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to go big and I'm going to go home. So we created the foundation. And the first thing we did, we shipped a 40-foot container, books, medical supplies, clothings. I think we impacted like 5 schools. I think jam scores went up crazy marks that they went up. Now, what we started doing was also looking at projects. So Blind School Gindry was one. My father taught at Blind School before we left. So I said, it's only befitting we come full circle and go back. So they had Braille machines that had been donated over time, but they became faulty. There was 17 of them, something like that. All of them were not operational. I said, no, this can't be. I said, what's the issue? He said, well, the manufacturers are in the U.S. They have no way of figuring out how to resolve this. They said, but to get a new one is more expensive, and you get one that all of them have to use. It's going to break just as fast as. So we developed a process where we carried all of them back, sent them back to the manufacturer, refurbished all of them, returned them back to Blind School.
Wonderful. So
now they have full sets, and then we've done impacts with Women's International Day, the blind, disabled students that are at UJ. So we've done a bunch of outreach with some other strong Plateau partners, NGOs. There's a lot of good work that people are doing. So we try to encourage those other agencies and other NGOs and causes to push forward, to kind of say, anytime they ask, they say, I will support, or we look at does it fit. And that's one thing, is now becoming a NGO that helps supports other NGOs in navigating and project. So I'm a project manager by trade, so I'm PMP. So naturally, everything I looked at has to be done in a systematic, documented, in a project management way. Why? You never know where that history or that paperwork or that report card will land at whose desk, at whose time. And your professionalism, your documentation, your execution is there, that they can really jump on and take advantage of it versus the work you do. So it goes back to where I said, okay, the best thing I saw from over the years of trying to do different projects. I mean, I've tried to do IT center. I've tried to do got into agriculture a little bit, buildings, business, real estate. And the one thing I've realized is, for me as a diasporan, right, moving parts that have too many moving parts is not for me. But I realize there's not too many things that you can not do that don't have moving parts.
Yeah.
Therefore, I said, okay, what's the way I can solve this issue? And to solve me, it was why I created a project management company where we actually manage projects like that for other clients. So whatever their project may be, from a large scale, medium scale, to just basically monitoring, saying verifications, going by and seeing, is the site going according to plan? Is there follow-up? Is there certain necessities? If, okay, you're investing this amount, what do you expect? What are the milestones? Sometimes people don't even know what they should be seeing at what stages. So, and then being their eyes and ears basically while they're outside or while they're still yet to come, so that you don't come back and hear the stories that touch the heart.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, we'll have to bring this to a close right here. Thank you so much, Troy. Just listening to all of the insights you've shared, I think that there are many action points that need to be taken for me and for everyone who's listening and watching this right now. Many action points, but the first one is the 4-3-2-1.
Yep. Easy.
Because that's really easy. The other one you talked about, and that's not just for people in the diaspora, but for everyone. Stay in your lane. Do the business that you understand, right? And then also have a proper system of monitoring. I think that just listening to you talk a lot about project management, now I'm thinking maybe I need to go do some project management courses, because I think beyond just project management, as per managing a project, I think it's a mindset, and it's just reflecting in everything that you've said, the systematic approach to things, right, and taking it from this end to that end. And when you mentioned having things properly documented, because you don't know where it will be needed tomorrow, I started thinking about even this podcast and the fact that there's some things I need to even go and put proper documentations around, just because, hey, a story about this or something about this might be needed sometime in the future, and it'll be good to just have everything well written.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's the only way to go about it. And project management is actually everyday life.
Yeah.
So it's in everything that you do. You're managing a household. What time the kids wake up, what time the kids go to sleep, food in the house, when it runs out, fuel for your fuel for the car. I mean, all these things are individualized projects: house project, work project, home project, social project, church project, mosque project. All the ones you have are different projects that you have to manage. So it's in your everyday life. It's just doing it in such a way that, I always say, light and right, wrong and long. So if you do it right the first time, your load is light. You do it wrong, it's going to be long and hard if you keep doing it and keep doing it right. So you just do it right the first time, document, do the hard work in the beginning.
In the beginning, yes.
It will save you time and time before you need it when you need to pull that.
Yeah. So I think that we actually do a lot of project management every day without realizing that we're doing it. Exactly. So it's the realization that brings the intentionality, right? Yes. That's what I'm hearing from what you're saying. Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you once again. I really enjoyed having this conversation, and I'm sure everybody else did too. Thank you so much for being with us and listening to this. I'm sure that you need to go back and watch this again. Right? You probably will need to watch it with your friends, watch it alone, watch it with a notepad, take a lot of notes, because there's so much to just digest from this conversation today. Troy has just shown us why he is a brand strategist, why he is an entrepreneur, right? So he's not just a superstar athlete. He has given us a masterclass right here, right? And even I will have to go back and listen to this, because there are just too many gems that are that are in this. Thank you once again. I can't wait to see you at the next episode. I can't wait to bring another episode to you. And I'd like you to guess who the next guest is going to be, if you can. Every episode is going to be a surprise, but if you can, try and guess who the next episode is, who the next guest and the next episode is. And I'll be looking forward to your comments. Till then, see you and take care.